5 years ago, you can go a couple of years without necessarily getting any further training. Now you can't go a year without getting some kind of career development to advance your career. So that's one big thing that everybody has to pay attention to is their ability to future proof, if I can use that word, is borrowed. I didn't make up. But I have said job search is a lifestyle. It is something we can do now from our lives, no matter where we are, because we have a mobile phone. We have the ability to be online constantly, continually. And we can also, while we're waiting for the next phone call, while we're waiting in line at the supermarket, while we're waiting at the barbershop, if we don't have an appointment, we've got to sit there for an hour. If you're in the black barbershop, it could be true. Then you have the ability to learn something while you're in it and or in that moment particularly. Those things really changed the lives of people as we found out in the past 2.5 years. So you have your different resources like Udemy, Coursera, even LinkedIn will have classes for you, and you could take them on demand right then and there. You don't have to go to a college to sign up or make a big deal or sign up anywhere. You can literally pay and then go learn as you do different master classes online. But something that is a continual thread throughout all sectors and no matter what status you are is the idea that you can emphasize flexibility, that you show you're adaptable to whatever changes are, and think of stories that will show you were adaptable, like during the pandemic, how seamlessly you were able to go from working at home to working from the workplace to at home and maybe to hybrid, or maybe even had to do it while you travel. There are some people in the small sector, people who continue to travel throughout the time of the pandemic. So where you, if you're a digital nomad, that's cool to be able to say that you'll be able to continue your career and serving your employer or serving clients while you were on the road to wherever you're going for whatever reason. To say that you're a perpetual learner is a big deal. You can not just talk about, yeah, you're a perpetual learner, but talk about the things and learning skills and certifications that matter to your industry and show how you've been able to do those things. And those are some of the things people can do and that they're been able to help their career along. I think a big thing too is that people, especially if you're young, and it doesn't matter what age you are, but I think people need to start looking at some of the companies that are startups in their industry. You can learn a lot about the current technology from those particular industries. You can learn about how people are working and how they're adapting and how they're being flexible. Because if you're working in your startup, and people think we say startup, it could be a tech startup. So certainly there's something important to watch because we're seeing a lot of those pop up. And I think too, along those lines, everybody should have some kind of contract or freelance shingle they can hang out, whether you make it an Inc. or LLC or you continue on as a sole proprietor, where you can make money in case there is a lapse, some kind, or that you're learning a new skill and you want to implement it in some kind of way. And volunteering is also a great big one that everyone can
Mhm.
do to their career hot and at least moving forward, even when it seems like everything seems to be static.
You gave some really great pieces of advice there for people who are trying to find a new job. I think that's continuing education and ensuring they're finding a way to show how you can add additional value is going to be
Mhm.
incredibly important for a lot of people. But I also love the tips about even potentially starting something on the side, an LLC, a sole proprietorship, or even volunteering. And these can be all things that show what you're doing with your time if you are unemployed, show
Right.
that you are making strides to do something. Sometimes it's also nice to show that you're actively making strides to transition your career into that new field you're trying to get into by volunteering in
Right.
things or starting something different or working with some of those startups. So I really appreciate those sort of actionable tips that people can take right now to boost
Mhm.
their resumes, to also speak or fill some of those gaps that they might be having in employment as well.
Mhm.
Now, when we talk about something when it comes to gaps in employment, we used to talk a lot about millennials doing job hopping and all of these
Mhm.
type of things. And now we have Gen Z talent, which is a little bit different than millennials. I'm not saying they job hop just like millennials did, but Gen Z is a certain type of talent, right? We know they
Yeah.
are entering the workforce. They're not the large population of the workforce yet, but they will be. And so
Mhm.
my question to you is, what do you think recruiters need to know about attracting and retaining Gen Z talent? We know they, like I said, they have similarities to millennials, just like millennials had similarities to the generation before them, but they're not
Mhm.
exactly the same. So, what do recruiters need to know about attracting and retaining Gen Z talent?
I think recruiters have to understand that they deserve respect and tact when approaching them and communicating with them, just like you would any other part. I think I'm not saying recruiters are disrespectful, but I think they don't respect them in the same light that you respect the other generation. And I think that's a big mistake because Generation Z also has a shorter fuse to work off of. So they're not going to wait around for you. They're hopping on the next train as you begin to think about how you're going to respond to them. So I think that's where sometimes the communication gap is. You may think that I'm a recruiter, I'm straightforward, but at the same time, if you're not straightforward to where that particular person is, then they will disregard you and move on to somebody else because what they're looking for is options in every facet of life. They want options for the career. They want options for where they live. They want options in their relationships and who they network with. You're not going to be part of the solution. You're going to be left out as an option. And that's bad business for a recruiter because if you have somebody
Mhm.
who's really talented, you want to communicate in a way that resonates with them and not them feeling like you're speaking at them. And honestly, I'm a baby boomer, so I have to keep that in line. But what helps me is that I have a Gen Z son and I have a millennial son, a younger millennial, and bridge that shade of gray between Gen Z and millennial. So I had to also speak with them. And when I give them advice, I do it out of respect, not that I'm talking down to them. I might be able to put out the dad card, but that's not the best and effective way to get them to listen. And so that's really worked well for me. And I think that should work well for everybody, even in the workplace.